Okay, abusua ba makwa ba sonko so ereba Ghana politics avenue so abusua yembonra yensem attorney general ensem bi aba betudwa asisi anu attorney general nensem a ode tudwa no with evidence no ocha wa uncover 22 million dollars in tax evasion on drip transaction bia during NPP tenure no e course asisi ano JR reform so a confirm which is 22 million dollars a transaction bia e course during Akuffo Addo tenure as asika no yenhu ba bia na efa na ono no or can to pay say it's either say NPP4 ebe recover scam and as obe prosecute or more HSA or we involved in that scandal. Abusua yen say mom rebebre no mom yenko na yenko nkoti ensema ekoso. Attorney General and edit sa ensemina etuja credit goes to Joy News omo ena HSA omne Attorney General etnase na all these enkomono yebepe se be me abijafo be me akọ na yakọ akoti ensema ekoso unsubscribe ya subscribe like na share ma afofron so ensa into me and kabi Ghana politics avenue so and don't forget to click on the notification bell so that any updates be ever dropping on also onza ebe to me aka bedamase
for this privileged encounter with you. I had to check my calendar and I realized that on Thursday the January the 9th 2025, just 2 days after President John Mahama was sworn into office after the December 2024 elections, he announced you alongside two others, the finance minister, the energy with transition, green transition, as the first batch of appointees. How do you appreciate the strategic significance of prioritizing these three appointments or sectors?
Well, thank you very much. If you take the three of us, that is the three offices, not the persons occupied. Appointed to occupy the office,
right?
And go back to our manifesto, that is the NDC 2024 manifesto. You realize that the economy was a central plank of our campaign.
Correct.
Because we had assessed the situation under the previous administration and come to the conclusion that the economy was not doing very well. And I'm sure with the benefit of hindsight, Ghanaians will agree that that assessment was right.
It wasn't your assessment.
Well,
ratings agencies,
right.
Fitch, Moody's, S&P in 2022 had already given us a junk status.
Yeah, that is so.
In
that
ratings,
is so.
never before.
Well, so basically what I'm saying is that, from the objective evidence on the ground, the economy was going to be a central part of the campaign, and it was a central part of the campaign. And you recall that in between 2013 and 2016, when, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was president of this country, the issue of power, was, Dumso.
That's correct.
Was one of our Achilles heels. And that was one of the reasons why we were booted out of power. And of course, the man is wise enough to know that he will not repeat the same mistake, twice. And so the energy sector was also critical. And you remember when there was a leadership change in Parliament and the justification that the party gave, that the economy and energy are critical, and therefore the Honorable Akuffo, then as our ranking member on finance and economy, took over the leadership of Parliament, and then Kofi Amabua became the deputy leader of Parliament. And so the energy sector was a very critical aspect. And then, of course, accountability. Public sector corruption was also a key part of our, campaign. And then, tied to that was the famous Aura. which we'll be talking about very soon.
Loots.
Yeah,
right.
so the Operation Recover All Loot became so popular with Ghanaians that the president thought that, giving the Attorney General that mandate, okay, having the energy minister or the Honorable, Jinapo, as part of the first, set of appointments, and the economy, was going to communicate to Ghanaians how central these three sectors were to his governance, in his second term. Right. And so it was so strategic, because we had to hit the road running. And if we had to hit the road running on all these fronts, it was these three that he wanted to start with.
Great. Economic transformation. A year on, inflation almost 24% at the time, right, has dropped to single digits, around 5%.
That is so.
The lowest since CPI rebase in 2021.
Yeah.
The currency has remained relatively stable. I have said I have my doubt if this is organic. And this has been consistent. There has been consistent supply of
foreign currency
power as well.
Right.
Despite the initial fears that there were going to be problems. Ghanaians appear generally satisfied. What has been the contribution of your office to the economic miracle, so to speak, that the broader public, is so satisfied with the government about?
Well, law does not have such a direct connection to the economic performance of the country, but its contribution will be indirect. So, for instance, our department is in charge of the drafting of legislation, and so we take instructions from the MDAs, including the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana, to refashion the laws of the country in a manner that will inure to the benefit of the people of this country, or that will ensure that economic performance, is enhanced. And so, if you take the fiscal measures that have been introduced, all the bills were drafted by the Legislative Drafting Division, and then, of course, we always advise on how the bills can be structured in a manner that will inure to the benefit of the country. And so our contribution is, limited to fashioning the laws and advising on governmental transactions, that have an impact on the economy. And then, of course, there is also the other aspect of it, which is the fact that every ministry, department, and agency is very much aware that now there cannot be any waste or wastage.
Okay.
All right. That transactions that are, fraught with a lot of overpricing will be definitely vetted. So, for instance, if you bring a transaction to my office, okay, we used to just look at the dry legal, aspects of the transaction, whether it complies with the laws of Ghana, the Constitution, statutes in force, the case law, and so on. But currently, we have taken an interest in the economics of the contracts, that I brought to the office. So, for instance, I would not, approve a contractual transaction, for instance, that has any semblance to what happened in the drip case, where you had in excess of about 70%, inflation of prices. So we do check all of those aspects, and we advise the ministries, departments, and agencies that, this could be problematic for you going down the line. And in some cases, if there's a need for me to brief His Excellency about a transaction and my concerns, I go to him directly and I talk to him, and then he will call the minister or chief executive to order. So that is how, and he keeps. So the point is that we are avoiding waste.
Good.
And the finance minister keeps mentioning that all the time, to people at the finance ministry, and then sometimes in parliament, about the fact that AYENE is making an effort to ensure that there's no wastage in
we
the
don't
system.
have the luxury to waste.
No, we don't at all.
Because our economy is in a place where you just can't afford to waste.
Not at all. And if, I start to give you some of the details of, what I'm finding in the investigations, you realize that
we'll get there shortly.
Okay.
So much of the stability that we have seen is attributed to the Bank of Ghana and the gold boards, $1 billion in foreign exchange support since January 2025. When should Ghanaians expect the projected $21 billion from the oral? Because that's what we're told.
Well, I like the way you have characterized it, projected. That was projected, from the over 2,000, cases.
417 cases.
Yeah, cases that, were contained in the oral report. And it was a rough, back of the envelope estimate of what, is capable of being, collected. Very soon in this year, I'm sure things, will start, dripping into the government chest with respect. Money will start flowing into the government chest with respect to oral. The question whether we will be able to get exactly the 21 billion projected is one that I cannot answer with mathematical certainty at this point in time. All right, but I'm doing a great deal of work with local and foreign partners. On the local front, I have the Economic and Organized Crime Office, the EOCO, and then NIB helping me. And then I also have a special investigations team that works directly to the Attorney General. That team is a very, a clandestine team, of investigators, very seasoned investigators who are working directly, to me. So very soon, things will, cash will start flowing into the public, kitty. So for instance, in respect of DRIP, I can say with certainty that we have been able to, with working with GRA, okay, we've been able to, establish that 22 million Ghana cedis of tax, was evaded as far as the DRIP transaction was concerned.
The company appears to challenge those figures.
That is what they are saying, right? So our initial estimate of the tax evaded was 38.7 million, all right? But we do not have the power, right, to say, with exactitude that a tax has been evaded. So in July of last year, I wrote to the GRA for confirmation. All right. Then the reason why I'm saying that I'm speaking with certainty with regard to the 22 million is because GRA just last week confirmed that figure. So it doesn't matter. And the company itself wrote a letter saying that they have they were re-warehousing some of the items that were cleared, as exempt when they were not supposed to attract exemption. But I think that letter is of no consequence as far as the tax evasion is concerned, because once you import goods and you clear them into the national customs territory, right, without paying duty, when you ought to have paid the duty, then it means that you have evaded taxes.
That's different from the 2 million you had flagged.
Right, the $2 million has also been flagged. Okay, so, and I'm going to pursue them for that $2 million because, it's very, very clear from our evidence that they were overpaid by $2 million. So I'm going to, in addition to the 22 that has been confirmed by GRA, I'm going to, pursue them for that.
But why shouldn't we take some of the explanations? J-Plan Pool, they suggest that this 2 million must have been a clerical error.
It wasn't a clerical error. It is very, very clear from the, okay, so we use the invoices. Okay, the invoices, we obtained the invoices from the Ministry of Finance, from the DACF, that is the Disassembly Common Fund,
right,
and from PPA, and compared all, the invoices we received, and that figure is confirmed by all the invoices. Okay, that they were overpaid by $2 million United States of American dollars. I will insist on that. I am considering either taking a civil action to recover or possibly bringing criminal prosecution, a criminal, prosecution against the company and its directors. All right. So on the tax front,
that sounds like a threat. You're threatening them.
I'm not threatening.
And using the fear of criminal prosecution
No.
to get them to hurry to pay.
Look, let me say something. Let me say this. All right. I can make the evidence available to Ghanaians, and every person who looks at the evidence will, confirm that what I'm saying is not a threat. I'm just simply putting out the objective facts. So, for instance, if I make available to you now the GRA letter confirming the 22 million, and I tell you that I'm going to collect it because that is my duty to make sure that, there's accountability. So, it should not be seen as a threat to the company, all right? I can take civil action to collect it. I can also decide to prosecute them for criminal, misconduct.
Right.
Yes.
So now we understand that how you contribute to the economy.
Apart from that, we are doing offshore investigations. So I have foreign asset recovery companies, okay, or personnel that are helping me, experts that are helping me to trace assets abroad.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are doing that.
And you do them simultaneously with your investigations?
We are doing them simultaneously with our investigations.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So part of what I understand from you is that, for example, when we mentioned the Gold Board for Praise,
yes,
that was legislation that you midwifed.
That is so.
To assist them to be able to be where they are. So sometimes it's not direct, as in the contribution. But that sounds like a direct contribution.
Well, so it will. You cannot. If the law is operationalized, efficiently and effectively, okay, then it makes a direct contribution.
That's right.
But our contribution is to fashion the law in a way that will make it work and produce benefits for the people of the country.
And as we get ready to get into some detail in oral, if you're just joining us, this is the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, who is gladly, indulging us because his attitude also has been that he wants to be open and frank and accountable to the people of the Republic. Dominic Akuritinga Ayine, he is answering some of your questions. And I realize that as we put out the flyer, many of you, your concerns had to do with oral. There is more to what they have to do than oral, but we'll take some time on oral. Critics say that you are aggressively pursuing opponents to recover loot, while at the same time, you are freeing individuals who are associated with the NDC. Do you regret your early decisions involving, nollie prosequi filings and the famous 60% bargains?
No, I don't. And something, you've known me for many years. If I don't believe in something, I wouldn't do it. And when I came into office, I did an objective professional assessment of all the pending cases. And remember, I keep reminding people that I was involved on the other side as defense attorney, right? If I didn't believe in the innocence of my clients, I would not, in some cases, I would not have, participated in, their, as part of their defense team, okay? So I had an insider view of most of the things that happened. So, for instance, you take, Sagleme. Okay. Sagleme, by all standards, was poorly investigated. All right. And the charges were poorly thought through. I'm saying this with all due respect to the people who drafted the charges, to the, state attorneys who were involved. I believe in their professionalism and I respect, their knowledge of criminal law a lot. All right. In fact, some of them are better than I am when it comes to criminal law. But I did an objective assessment. And so I give the Sagleme case as an example. Now, if you look at the case, they were talking about $200 million, all right, of funds, that were misused or lost to the state as a result of the actions of the persons who were charged. including my then client, Collins Dowda, all right? Well, we did an assessment of it. Collins Dowda was charged with causing financial loss to the tune of 200 million. But Collins Dowda was in the ministry for a very short period. At the time that he was leaving, only $94 million had been expended. Okay, so, I mean, something tell me, by what stretch of imagination can you charge a person like that with, with causing financial loss to the tune of 200 million, except to say that maybe his actions that, he took in office triggered the entire loss, all right? If you cannot directly attribute the entire loss to him, there was no point charging him with causing financial loss to the tune of 200 million. But that wasn't even, as bad as saying that, he issued false certificates, okay? A minister does not issue IPCs, interim payment certificates, all right? The interim payment certificates are, issued by the consultants who go to the ground, assess the work done, all right, value it, and they say, look, this is how much, the state ought to pay to this person. Yeah, and then they are the ones who then write to the minister, and the minister just writes to Minister of Finance to say that, look, this IPC has been presented, please go ahead and pay. So unless they are saying that the minister ought not to have taken the advice of the consultants, okay, then you cannot attribute the false character of the IPCs, all right, to the minister, okay? So I did an objective assessment of
the minister
all
has supervision.
Yeah, you have ministerial responsibility, right, for your sector.
That's right.
Right. But when it comes to, technical matters, such as, a construction project, you have technical people working on and advising the minister. So I don't know by what means a minister is going to be able to say that this IPC ought not to be paid because it is false. That it does not reflect what is on the ground. When you have AESL, a government, a designated or a entity that does the professional work of consulting on government construction
Ultimate
projects.
Responsibility. The buck stops with you. If you have to do due diligence to ensure that some wrong does not occasion us loss, and you fail, you should take the responsibility for it.
Well, I do concede that you should take responsibility for it. All right. But, criminal liability is specific. Can you actually say that the intent is attributable to the minister when you say that the certificate is false, right? What about the person who issued the certificate? Why were they not being prosecuted, as a result of, the determination by the then Attorney General that these certificates were false? All right. So the point I'm making is that I did an objective assessment of all these cases. And of course, if you take, Cocoa Board, the Opuni trial, as a lawyer, I'm sure you were following it. There was, reasonable doubt, a lot.
Okay, I was saying we need and some a course or political highway. So Attorney General Dominic Ayine and Yetseninka NPP for looted $22 million transaction be a course and on some and or the atuja at the amayano unsubscribe there, subscribe, like and share my Akuffo so answer into me and kebi Ghana Politics Avenue. So and don't forget to click on the notification bell so whenever any updates be ever dropping on so answer a bit to me aka.